Welcome back, and it's the short week before Christmas, so only a 3-day week for us this time. When we last left off, I had started milling foam again, and working. I was working on the part of the intake, and this is a separate part of the intake. This is the sort of the main forward stuff, that part that accepts the actual up and down moving intake, and there's the other part that I had done before, and that's sort of finished off. So there's a nice and simple. Machine's doing a real nice job. There's the one that just came off, and that's pretty much finished. A little bit of handwork required on that, but then ready for glass. And so the next thing I was working on here was the back pressure bulkhead that attaches to the bulkhead from the keel, and then it sits over the top of the spar and sort of mates up with the firewall. So here it is, and now I've flipped it over, and what we end up doing is creating a whole bunch of flanges on that you'll see here in a second. And just there they are, there's all the flanges, and so that creates a nice solid part that we can basically make out of foam and make the plug for. And here it is, well underway in the mill, just finishing off some of the face cuts on that back sort of flange, the thing that meets up with the top of the main wing spar. So that milled up fairly easily, didn't have any issues with that, and actually didn't even have the machine do anything weird on me, which was kind of nice. And then the next thing you're going to see is, what do we got here? This is it, just doing a face cut on the lower side flange on the right, and those came out pretty good. And this thing doesn't really require anything other than just a little bit of sanding on the edges, and it's ready to glass. So meaning less work for the guys now, which is good. And there it is, all finished off. Actually has a little bit of a blue tinge on it because we were painting today, that you'll see in a second. And we haven't created a proper booth yet, so there's a bit of overspray kind of all around the shop. Anyway, so there's Jeff putting the top coat on the fuselage plug, and you see it's a nice sort of shade of blue. And just to sort of skip ahead, there he's at the back there, working on the other parts, and we're going to create kind of like a temporary paint booth for doing this next time, so we have less overspray everywhere. But here you go, there's the back lower pressure bulkhead, there's the door trim one, and there's the forward bulkhead, and looking nice. And these just need a wet sanding now, and then a polish, and they're ready to pull a mold off of. There's the conduits, and lastly there is the fuselage. So just for anyone who thinks that this is the actual fuselage of the plane, you are wrong. This is just the plug, and yeah, it looks nice and whatever, but we will be pulling a mold off of this, and it has to be smooth so we get a good finish on the mold. And lastly, here's a concept there of the belt drive with the two belts in there. So Mark's still working on that. This will probably be the last update until after Christmas, so have a Merry Christmas.